Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's last? All good?
Great.
Great. Okay, great is good. Make sure my machine is working over here. Opa. Bum, 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 bum. Good morning, Chabra.
Morning.
All right. Getting into the zone over here. Index day. What? Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we're going to be learning the division of the mitzvahs according to the halachas of Mishnah Torah. And as the Rambam spoke out in his intro, that he's going to organize all the mitzvahs, not on the seder of the mitzvahs, as we just learned over the past 2 days, the Ramach mitzvah say, the Shasan mitzvah say, but the Rambam organized the entire Torah Shebal Peh in his unique order, which are connected to topics. And as he mentioned, he's going to write the Yada Chazaka on the following order. There's going to be Sfarim, and as we will see, there's going to be 14 Sfarim. In every Sefer, there's going to be a series of halachas. In every halachas, there's going to be a series of parakim. And in every Pedic, there's going to be a series of halachas ketanoi. So let's start going inside. It says the Rambam isi lachalik chibur zeh la'arba asar Sfarim. And just another quick intro that Rebbe spoke out, that just like we have throughout Shas, Simonei Hashas, you have every now and then you have mnemonics. And not only do we read the mnemonics, but they are a segula to remember, to memorize, not only the content, but the content and the seder of that which is brought down in the Gemara. So similarly, the Rambam wrote down, this is Al Derech, the Simonei Hashas, that by learning properly the index, it's going to help us not only get organized, but God willing, this is going to help us remember that which we will be learning. So let's go. Sefer Rishon says Rambam Echol Boy Kol HaMitzvah Shehem Iker Das Moshe Rabbeinu Alav Hashalom. And V'tzarech Adam Leida Oisem Tchila Sakoil. For example, Yichud Hashem Baruch Hu, the Isurei Avodas Kechavim. The Rebbe points out that Yichud Hashem and the Isurei Avodas Kechavim is the same, both sides of the same coin. What's the opposite of Yichud Hashem is automatically going to lead us into, God forbid, idolatry. The Korisi, Shem, Sefer Zem, Sefer Mado. It's amazing that on one hand, we have in Chagiga certain limits regarding learning this part of Torah. The Rambam put, as he writes, that which has to be known and learned first, as we will see, the Chalakim of the Torah that are Pardes, as we'll see in the first couple of chapters of Sefer Mada. Sefer Sheni, all in the fourth, from this 14th Sfarim. Echol boy kol ha-mitzvah shehem tedirois, shenetztavinu behem kedei lehoi v'amokoim, ulezachrei tamid, kegoin kriya shema utfila, utfilin ubirchas kehanim, umila, which is bechlal, wise meal included in the second Sefer Lefishi, ois b'vsoreinu lahaskir tamid b'shah she'en sham tfilin, v'loi tzitzis, v'chayoytze behem. Interestingly, the Rebbe points out that for some reason the Rambam did not write here mezuzah. The Rebbe has various approaches, but we won't have enough time to go through them. Because Shem, Sefer Zeh, Sefer Ahava. Sefer Shlishi, Echlol Boy Kol HaMitzvah Shehem B'Zmanim Yaduim, Kegoin Shabbos, Umayadois, Tikarasi Shem Sefer Zeh, Sefer Zmanim. Sefer Revi'i, Echlol Boy Kol HaMitzvah Shel Be'ilah, which are anything connected to intimate relations. Kegoin Kedushin V'Gerushin, V'Yibam V'Chalitza. Tikarasi Shem Sefer Zeh, Sefer Nashim. Sefer Chamishi, Echlol Boy Mitzvah Shel Bias Asurais, U'Mitzvah Shel Macholes Asurais. It's important to know that Bias Asurais and Macholes Asurais are always taught together. They're really in content the same idea. Lefisha b'shnei yonim ha'elu kidishonu hamakim and v'hibdilonu min ha'umais ba'aroyes u'b'macholes asurais u'b'shnei nemar asher ivdalti eschem min ha'amim. Also, as it says, for Abdul eschem min ha'amim v'karasi shem sefer zeh sefer kedusha. Sefer Shishi Echlol Boy Mitzvah She's Chai Bahem Misha Asar Atzme B'Dvarim Kigoin Shvu'os U'Nedarim V'Karasi Shem Sefer Zeh Sefer Hafla'ah, the book of utterances. Sefer Shvi'i Echlol Boy Mitzvah Shehem B'Zer Ha'aretz. It's amazing. In Rabbeinu HaKadosh Seder of Mishnayos, what's the first Seder? Zroim. The Rambam got it's the seventh. Echlol Boy Mitzvah Shehem B'Zer Ha'aretz Kigoin Shmitin V'Yoyvlois U'Maisrois U'Trumois. Everything is meduyek, Chevron. So Yovel comes after Shemitah, right? So he writes Shemitah and Yovelis. Here the question is, it should have said Trumas or Maisras, right? Ushar mitzvahs anacholis imoim meinyanim meinyam nam v'karasi shem sefer zeh sefer zroim sefer shmini echlol boy mitzvah shehem bebinyan hamigdash. The Rebbe points out that the Rambam in the past and in the future will refer to the Holy Temple as Beis Habchira. And for some reason, Dafka here and here only, the Rambam refers to the Beis Hamikdash as Binyan Hamikdash and not the Binyan Habchira, Beis Habchira. The Karbanai Sibur, Hatamidim, the Karasi Shem Sefer Zeh, Sefer Avoida, Sefer Chi, Echlo Boy Mitzvah Shem, the Karbanis Hayachid. It's amazing, a whole different Sefer. The Karasi Shem Sefer Zeh, Sefer Karbanis. Sefer Asiri, Echlo Boy Mitzvah Shem, the Toharais, the Tumais. The Karasi Shem Sefer Zeh, Sefer Tahara. Sefer Achadosor, Echlol Boy Mitzvah Sheben Adon Lachaveiroi. And the Yesh Behem Hezek, Techila B'Mamayin Oy Beguf. The Karasi Shem Sefer Zeh, Sefer Nezikin. Sefer Shnei Masor, Echlol Boy Mitzvah Smichira B'Kinyan. The Karasi Shem Sefer Zeh, Sefer Kinyan. Sefer Shloisha Asor, Echlol Boy Mitzvah Sheben Adon Lachaveiroi. B'Shar Dinim She'ein B'Tchilas and Hezek, like Shoimrim U'Bali Choyvois U'Ta'anois U'Kefirois. The Karasi Shem Sefer Zeh Sefer Nishpatim, and the final Sefer Arba Asar Echlol Boy Mitzvah Shehem Mesurais LeSanhedrin Kegoin Misas based in the Kabbalas Edus the Din Melach Milcham Moisav. The Karasi Shem Sefer Zeh Sefer Shoitim says the Rambam the Zehu Chiluk Halachish Shel Chibur Zeh Lefi Inyonei Hasfarim, and the Chiluk of the mitzvahs will be now in another Seder. So what we learned yesterday and 2 days ago will all be relearned right now. In other words, we will really now make mention of all of the Tayyag mitzvahs, but not on the Seder that the Rambam, for whatever reason, chose to record them just when he wrote down the mitzvahs themselves. But now he's going to reorganize all of the Tayyag mitzvahs according to this new Seder of the Sfarim, the Chiluk HaMitzvahs, Lefi Inyonei Halachas. Gavaldik. So now we're going to go again through the 14 Sfarim, and the Rambam is going to write over here the mitzvahs that are included in the 14 Sfarim on their new Seder of the Sfarim of Sefer Yad HaChazaka. And just to make this class a little bit exciting, being that the Rebbe taught us 14 Nigunim, and this is my proposal, and the Rebbe taught them on a Seder. Most of them were taught Simchas Torah, Ki Yadua. But there were other Nigunim that were taught by the Rebbe in Fabrengens, and I'm going to propose that the 14 Nigunim of the Rebbe are connected to the 14 Sfarim. And being that we're going to do a lot of reading at the end of every Sefer, I have here ready, recorded. I'm going to play for a moment, for 30 seconds, the Nigun of the Rebbe, to take a little commercial break, the healthy Freiliche break. And perhaps it's correct. Who knows? Okay, let's go. Sefer Madon. Zot, the Rambam, that Hilchoisav Chamish. Like we mentioned, guys, Sfarim, remember the word, the system. Halachis, the big halachis. Purakim, and then what the Rambam calls the halachis ketanis. Okay, so the Rambam is going to go through the Sefer and the halachis. Sefer Amade. In it you have Hilchos of Chamish. V'zeh Sidurim. Hilchos Yisoidei HaTorah, Hilchos Deos, Hilchos Talmud Torah, Hilchos Avodas Kechavim, and V'chukos Oivdeho, and Hilchos Tshuva. In Hilchos Yisoidei HaTorah, now we're going through the mitzvahs as they are, the mitzvahs that will be covered in Yisoidei HaTorah. Yesh b'chol and eser mitzvahs. Sheish mitzvahs aseh, v'arba mitzvahs loisaseh v'zeh pratim. Aleph leida sheyeshem Elokah, Beish lo yalav b'machshava sheyeshem Elokah zulasi Hashem, Gimel liyachadoi, Daled li'ohavoi, Hey liyira mimenu, Vav lekadesh shemoi, Zayin shalei lechalal shemoi, Ches shalei la'abed devarim shenikra shemoi aleihem, Tes l'shmoya min hanavi hamedaber b'shmoi, and the final yud shaloi l'nasois means not to test God. Next, Hilchos Deis, Yesh b'chol achad, Achas esrei mitzvahs, Chamish mitzvahs aseh, V'sheish mitzvahs lois aseh, V'zeh pratim. Aleph lihidamis bedrachav, Beis lihidabik biyoidav, Gimel lehoi v'sreim, Daled levas hagerim, Hey shaloi lisnoi achim, Vav loi chiach, Zalat shaloi lahalbim panim, Ches shaloi la'anois unlalim, not to oppress those who are unfortunate, Tes shaloi lahaloi chrachel, Yud shaloi linkoim, Yud aleph shaloi lintoir, Hilchos Talmud Torah yesh b'cholim shnei mitzvahs aseh v'zeh pratim. Aleph lil my Torah, and Beis lachabed melamdeha v'yoideha. Next series of Hilchos Avodas Kechavim yesh b'cholim chamishim achas mitzvahs. Shnei mitzvahs aseh v'arboim v'teisha mitzvahs loisaseh v'zeh pratim. Aleph shaloi lifnois achar Avodas Kechavim. Beis shaloi lasur achar hirur alei b'riyas einayim. Gimel shaloi legadeh, which is blasphemy. Dalet shaloi ya'abed oisek edarach avidas. Hey, even if bowing down is shaloy kedarach avidasa, specifically shaloy yishtachbel. Vav shaloy lasis pesel atzmei. Zayin shaloy lasis pesel afilo lachedim. Ches shaloy lasis tzurais afilo lenoi. Tes shaloy ladiach acherim achedim acherel. Yud lisre viranidachas. Yud alav shaloy levnois. Yud bei shaloy lihin hanis mikol memoina. Yud gimel shaloy lahasis yachad averes kechavim laavda. Yud alav shaloy lehoy vamesis. It was before Irani Dachas was speaking about someone that was trying to convince the whole city. Now we're going to someone who's trying to proselytize, missionize an individual. Tezvav shalei la'azlev sinasei. Tezayin shalei la'atziloi. Yud zayin shalei lamed olav schus. Yud ches shalei yimanem olamed olav chayra. Yud tes shalei lihisnabi b'shma. Chav shalei l'shmai min amisnabi b'shma. Chav alav shalei lihisnabi b'sheker afilu b'shem Hashem. Chav beis shalei logur b'harigas navi sheker. People are afraid of them. Don't be afraid of them. It's a chayvus alabavis. The specific types of practices that the Torah speaks about. We learned the Matzeva, even if it is to gather people connected to God Almighty, that a monument may not be built. Outside the Azara, Chavtesh Shalei Lita Ashera, Lamed La'abed Averes Kechavim B'chol Anasa V'Shvila, Lamed Aleph Shalei Lohanes Averes Kechavim B'chol Mishamshel, Lamed Bei Shalei Lohanes B'tzipui Nevod, Lamed Gimel Shalei Lichos Bris Lo'evdei Kechavim, Lamed Aleph Shalei Lochain Aleim, Lamed Hey Shalei Yeshbu Ba'artzeinu, Lamed Vav Shalei Lidamis V'Meharagoisam, Uve Malbusham, Lamed Zayin Shalei L'Nachesh, Lamed Ches Shalei Lixaim, Lamed Tesh Shalei Lo'einen, Mem Shalei L'Achboim, Chaver mem aleph shaloi lidre shal amesim mem bei shaloi lishol ba'oiv mem gimel shaloi lishol b'yadayni mem dalet shaloi lachashik mem hey shaloi lahakif ha'asaroish. The Rambam connects these followings to Avodas Kechavim. Mem vav shaloi lahashchis pa'as hazakim mem zayin shaloi yade ish ade isha. Amazing cross-dressing is somehow connected also to Avodah Zarah. Mem ches shaloi sade isha klei zayin ade ish mem tesh shaloi lichtov kaka. And the Rambam writes that explicitly. This is connected because Oiv de Avodah Zarah would make tattoos. The Rambam links them all to go away from idol worship practices. Nun shaloi lihis goydei, nun aleph shaloi laso is korcha alames. The next series of halachas is Hilchos Tshuva. Mitzvahs asay achas v'hu sheyoshuv hachoyte mechetoi lifnei Hashem v'yisvado. And as the Rebbe is medayek, that here the Rambam is writing that the mitzvahs asay is that you should do tshuva and say vidui. As we'll learn in the series proper, the wording of the Rambam there is different. The Rambam writes that the mitzvah sasei achas is that when a person does tshuva, there is a mitzvah sasei to verbalize vidui bepeh, to confess. Here the Rambam is not only saying that the mitzvah is v'yisvadem, but the mitzvah is sheyoshuv. Nimtzu says that's something that has to be explained, but let's just bring up the topics that the Rebbe points out, at least the few ones that I remember. Nimtzu kol ha-mitzvahs hanechlolis b'sefer zeh is chomesh v'shivim, sheish esrei mitzvahs asay, and Shava Chamishim Mitzvahs Loisase, and that concludes the Sefer of Mada, and this is connected perhaps to the Nigun of Tzomalachon Nafshi. And moving on to Sefer Ahava, says the Rambam Hilchos of Sheish, is El Sidunan. Hilchos Kriya Shema, Hilchos Tefillah, Birchas Kohanim, Hilchos Tefillah, Mezuzah, Sefer Torah, Hilchos Tzitzis, Hilchos Brachos, and Hilchos Milam. Now, Hilchos Kriya Shema, Mitzvah Say Achas, Vihi Likrois Kriya Shema Pamayim Bayoim. Hilchos Tefillah, Birchas Kohanim, Yesh B'cholim Shtei Mitzvah Say. Aleph La'aved Has Hashem Tefillah B'chol Yoim. Wow, B'chol Yom, that's part of the positive commandment. And Beis, Levarach Kohanim Es Yisrael B'chol Yom. Hilchas Tefillin Mezuzah V'Sefer Torah Yesh B'chol and Chomish Mitzvahs Asay V'Zo Proten. Aleph Liyas Tefillin Al HaRosh. Here again, the Rambam writes the Rosh before the Yad. Beis L'Koshen and Al Yad. Gimel L'Kboya Mezuzah V'Pischei Yasharim. Dalem Lichtov Kolish Sefer Torah La'atzmai. Hey, Lichtov HaMelech. Sefer Sheni La'atzmai, Kadesh Yoloi, Shnei, Sifrei Torah. Hilchos Tzitzis Mitzvahs Asay Achas V'Hilasi Tzitzis Al Kanfi Aksus. Hilchos Brachos Mitzvahs Asay Achas V'Lovarech Eshemoy Achar Achila. As we know, brachos prior to eating, that's in the Midrabana. Hilchos Mila Mitzvahs Asay Achas V'Hilamul Esas Choram Ayem Ashmini. Says Rambam Nimtzu Kol Mitzvahs and Achlolos B'Sefer Zeh. Up to now, the ending of Sefer Ahava is Achas Asrei Mitzvahs Asay. Amazing. No negative commandments. And we're going to link this second Sefer with the Nigun of Yehisha on the... Right, it makes sense. The Yehisha Amdas is the Ahava. Just for the audience that we put it on 1.25. Let's go weiter. Sefer Zmanim, Hilchos of Eser v'Zel Sidurim, Hilchos Shabbos, Hilchos Erevin, Hilchos Shvisas Asur, Hilchos Shvisas Yomtev, Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah, Hilchos Shefer V'Sukkot V'Lulav, Hilchos Shkolim, Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh. Ooh, that's going to be gavaldik. Hilchos Tinius, Hilchos Megillah v'Chanukah. And now let's go into now the mitzvahs. Hilchos Shabbos, Yesh B'Chol Chomesh Mitzvahs, Shtei Mitzvahs Asay B'Sholosh Mitzvahs, Lois Asay B'Zo Pratim. Aleph Lishbois Bashvi, Beis Shalei Lasis by Malacha, Gimel Shalei Lanoish Bashabbos, right? But the dinim are closed down. Dalet Shalei Lotzes Chutz Lagvul B'Shabbos, positive commandment, right? This is a Rabbi Akiva Shita, right? The Yud Beis Mil. Hey, Lekadesh Hayoim B'Schiron. Hilchos Erevin Mitzvahs Asay Achas V'Hi B'Divrei Seifim Ve'enam V'Naminyan. Well, Hilchos Shvisas Asar. In other words, since Hilchos Erevin is a separate series of halachas, he has to write down that there's with the Rabbanan. Hilchos Shvisas Asar Yesh B'Chol and Arba Mitzvahs, Shtei Mitzvahs Asay, or Shtei Mitzvahs Lois Asay V'Zo Pratim. Aleph Lishbois Boy Memelacha, Beis Shalei Lasis Boy Melacha, Gimel Lisanis Boy, Dalet Shalei Lechol V'Lishtois Boy. Hilchos Shvisas Yomtev Yesh B'Chol Shtei Esrei Mitzvahs, 12 mitzvahs, 6 positive, 6 negative. V'Zo Pratim. Aleph Lishbois B'Rishon Shal Pesach, Beis Shalei Lasis Boy Melacha, Gimel Lishbois B'Shvi Shal Pesach, and now in the negative Dalet Shalei Lasis Boy Melacha. Hey, Lishbois B'Yom Chag HaShavuos, Vav Shalei Lasis Boy Melacha. Zayin Lishbois B'Rosh Hashanah, Ches Shalei Lasis Boy Melacha. Tes Lishbois B'Rishon Shal Chag HaSukkos, Yud Shalei Lasis Boy Melacha. Yud Aleph Lishbois B'Shmini Shal Chag, and Yud Beis Shaloi Lasos Boy Melacha. Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah Yesh B'Chol Shmoina Mitzvahs. Sholosh Mitzvahs Asay and B'Chomesh Mitzvahs Lois Asay V'Zo Pratim. Aleph Shaloi Lechol Chametz B'Yom Yud Aleph Machatzes Yom L'Maylo. Beis Lahash B'So'er B'Yud Aleph. Gimel Shaloi Lechol Chametz Kol Shiva. Dalet Shaloi Lechol Taroivas Chametz Kol Shiva. That's a Doiraisa. Hey Shaloi Yeirah Chametz Kol Shiva. Not to own it. we'll see details. That's the only mitzvahs. In other words, during the rest of Yom Tov, it's reshus. But the obligation is on the night of the Seder Ches. L'saper b'tzias Mitzrayim ba'ois halayla. Hilchai shofar b'sukkah v'lulav. Yesh b'chalon sholish esrim shloish mitzvahs asay b'zel pratim. Aleph l'shmoya kol shofar be'echad b'tishrei. Right, l'shmoya, not to blow but to listen. Kenusach habracha. Beis leishev b'sukkah, to live in the sukkah shivas yimei Gimel lita lulav b'migdash kol shilas yimei hachag. Interesting that Rambam didn't write that there's also a mitzvahs asay to take the lulav everywhere. Doesn't mention it here. Hilchas kol mitzvahs asay achas v'hilitin kol ish machzas hashakal b'chol shana. Hilchas kiddush hachodesh mitzvahs asay achas v'hi lachashev uleida, to calculate and to know. And now on the Sanhedrin likboya be'izu yom utchilas kol chodesh v'chodesh v'chatshei hashana. Hilchas tiniest mitzvahs asay achas v'hi leisanois v'lizoik lifnei Hashem be'eis kol tzorah gedoylam. And we already add shaloi tovei al hatzibur. Hilchas Megillah v'Chanukah, yesh b'chlal shtei mitzvahs asay, and they are both medivrei soifrim, and therefore ve'einam min haminyan nimtzu. Says that Rambam kol hamitzvah shel Torah hanachlolis b'sefer zen, the sefer of zemanim is chamesh v'shloishim. You have a total of 35, right? 19 positive, 16 negative. The yesh boy gimel mitzvahs medivrei soifrim, and we're going to connect the nigun of Darkecha Elokeinu to the third sefer. You think about the connection, it fits. Aaron is on. You see, we got Nigunim going on over here. Sefer Noshim says that Rambam Hilchos of Chamesh v'zeh Sidunam. Guys, remember that for people who are coming in right now, the Rebbe says that learning the index is mamish like learning Simanei Hashas, which not only do we say it, but it helps people remember. Sefer Noshim Hilchos of Chamesh v'zeh Sidunam. Hilchos Ishus, Hilchos Gerushin, Hilchos Yibum B'Chalitza, Hilchos Narapsula, and Hilchos Soitam. Hilchos Ishus yesh b'chlal arba mitzvahs. Shtei mitzvahs asay and shtei mitzvahs loisaseh v'zeh pratim. Aleph, Lisa, Isha, Biksuba, Vikidushin. Bei, Shaloi Tibal, Isha, Baloi, Ksuba, Vikidushin. Gimel, Shaloi Yimna, She'er, Ksus, Va'ayna. Dalet, Lifreis, Velivreis, Mi Mena. Hilchis Gedushin, Yesh, Bechol, Shtei Mitzvahs. Mitzvahs, Asei, V'hu. Look how he words it. She'yegadish, Hamegadish, Ba'sefer. Oh, there's no mitzvah to divorce. The mitzvah is that if you are divorcing, there's a mitzvah to affect the separation through a document. If she remarried someone else, even if that other marriage fell apart, then you're not allowed to remarry her. On this order, Beis lachaloitz, Gimel shaloisi nase yivama leishzar, achetasi reshus hayavam me'olehom. Hilchas na'id psula. Yesh b'cholon chamish mitzvah shleish mitzvahs asay ushtei mitzvahs leisaseh v'zel pratim. Aleph liknois hamafata. Bei sheyisa ha'oines anusasai if she wants. Gimel shelo yigaresh ha'oines. If she doesn't want, he has to stay with her forever. Dalet sheteshev eishes moitzi shemra tachas baila also la'olam. And hey, shelo yigaresh moitzi shemra esishtoi hilchos. Soit I know I pointed out when we learned the mitzvahs asay that in our, at least in the Chayenu, they had soit written with a sin. And I know that right now it's written with a samach, but you should know that there are many girsois that the Rambam wrote soit throughout with a sin. Hilchas soit, yesh b'chalon shalosh mitzvahs, achas mitzvahs asay, ushtei mitzvahs loisaseh, v'zeo pratim. Aleph lasois, lasoit ketreides hakanois hasuras b'toira. Beis, shaloi litein shemen al karbana, and gimel, shaloi litein olav, Levainam, which is amazing. That's the unique part. Another unique part of the carbon soite. It was the only private carbon that was made out of barley. So now we are concluding the Sefer Noshim. Says Rambam Nimtzu Kol HaMitzvahs Hanachloles. In this Sefer of Noshim, there are 17 mitzvahs. Shamehem mitzvahs asay, ushmoina mitzvahs loisaseh. And I will the concept, the connection that I would like to propose to Asada Lisudasa is because Shabbos is the Eishes Chayil. And here we go. So that was us. Okay, good. 1.5. Weiter. Sefer Kedusha. Hilchos of Shalosh v'zeu Sidurim. Hilchos Isuri Bia, Hilchos Machalas Asures, and Hilchos Shchita. Hilchos Isuri Bia, Chevra Yesh B'chlal and Shloishim V'Sheva mitzvahs. 37 mitzvahs. Achas mitzvahs asay. Imagine. U'hasha'od mitzvahs lois asay. Yeah, a lot more no's than yeses. V'zeu Pratim. Shaloi Lava Yaloim. Beish Shaloi Lava Yaleshus Av. Gimel Shaloi Livel Achos. Dalot Shaloi Livel Bas Ashes of. Hey Shaloi Livel Bas Habein. Guys, you remember when you want to translate them into English, always begin with the second word first, right? The son's daughter, it always works. Or you can read it in the English, but just if you go on the opposite side in English, it's going to fit. Vav shalalivo bas, shalalivo bas habas, shalalisa isha ubita, shalalisa isha ubas bena, right? Bas bena was son. Shalalisa isha ubas bita. Yud aleph shalalivo achois of. Yud bei shalalivo achoisein. Yud gimel shalalivo eshes achi ha'av. Yudalat shalei libel eshes haben. Tezvav shalei libel eshes ach. Tezayin shalei libel achois ishtay. Yud zayin shalei yishkav im behemo. Yud ches shalei tavi isha behemo lel. Yud tes shalei lishkav im zachar. Chav shalei legales ervas av. Chav aleph shalei legavas ervas achi ha'av. Chav bei shalei libel eshes ish. Chav gimel shalei libel nida. Chav dalat shalei lihischaten bagoyim. Chav ei shalei yavei amoini umayavi bekahal Hashem. Cannot accept them as converts, the males. Chavav shalei laharchik dar shlishi mitzri lavi bakol. Chav zayin shalei laharchik dar shlishi of an adoimi milavi bakol. Chav ches shalei yavi mamzer bakol. Chav teh shalei yavi sadis bakol. Lamed shalei l'sadis zachar afilu behem achai va'oif, which is very difficult for people who own animals. Lamed alef shalei yisa koyin gadol almana. Lamed bei shalei yival koyin gadol almana afilu b'loy nesuyin. Lamed gimel vihi. That's the mitzvahs asay, which is sheyisa kohen gadol psula bina arusa. And that age, right, between 12 and 12 and a half, lamed dalot sheyisa kohen gadol gerusha, lamed hey sheyisa zoyna, as defined in halacha, lamed vav sheyisa halala, lamed zayin sheyikrav adam laachas mikol arayis va'afilu loy ba'al. In other words, the concept of harchakos, some of them are biblical, as we'll learn inside. Hilchas machalas asurais. Yesh b'chlalan esrim u'shmoina mitzvahs. 28 mitzvahs. Arba mitzvahs asay, the esrim arba mitzvahs lois asay b'zeu pratim. Aleph livdoik v'simoni b'heim v'chayim. This is prior to shachting them. Just to know, lahavdol ben tamei la tohir. Beis livdoik v'simoni ha'oif, lahavdol ben tamei la tohir. What are the simoni ha'oif, chavra? Amazing. The Torah doesn't write them at all. This is mamish part of the parts of the Torah that were given down, completely orally. We have in the Torah the simanim of animals and of fish, not of birds. Halacha gimel, livdoik b'simani dogim lahavdol ben tamei latoy. Dala livdoik b'simani chagovim lahavdol ben tamei latoy. Hey shloi lechol behema v'chayet tamei. Vav shloi lechol oif tamei. Zayin shloi lechol dogim tamei. Ches shloi lechol sheretz oif. Tes shloi lechol sheretz haaretz. Yud shloi lechol remes haaretz. Yud aleph shloi lechol toilas hapeiros, only after it left its place of origin. In other words, when it goes out of the fruit, kishetetzi la'aretz. Yud beis shalei lechol sheretz hamayim. Yud gimel shalei lechol nevela. Yud dalet shalei lehonois b'shoyer haniskol. Tes vav shalei lechol treifa. Tes zayin shalei lechol ever menachai. Yud zayin shalei lechol dom. Yud ches shalei lechol chelev behema tohoira. Right, not the cholav, the chelev, the fats. The fats, these are kodesh. The fats is a greater prohibition than eating a treif, what we call treif, eating the chazal. Suet. In English, it's called suet. Yud ches shalei lechol gedanosha. It just means not to eat them when they were cooked together, as we'll see inside. And Chav Ches Shaloi Lishtois Yayin Nesar. Hilchoi Shchita Yesh B'chlon Chomish Mitzvahs. Wow. Sholish Mitzvahs Aseiru Shtei Mitzvahs Lois Asev Zeo Pratim. Aleph Tishchoi, and only afterwards to eat. Chav Beis, I'm sorry. Shaloi Lishchoi Oisei Ve'ezbenoi B'yoy Mechad. Gimel Lachasois, the dam of a chaya or of a ois. Dalot Shaloi Lika Chaim Alabanim. Amazing, connected to Shchita, right? Hey, Lishala Chaim Im Lakacha Alabanim. Says the Rambam, Kum Tachois, Nimtzu Kol HaMitzvahs HaMecholos in this sefer of Kedusha are Shivim. Shmoina Mehem Mitzvahs Asay, look at the proportion. V'shishim Ushtayim is mitzvahs leisasei kedushas, that we are God's people. Ki anu amecha. It fits. This is 1.5. But just imagine. Ah.
Sit down and sing it. Singing this is just
That's Kedusha. We're God's people. Gan Eden. Sefer Hafla, says Rambam, Hilchos of Arba V'Zel Sidurim. Hilchos Shavuos, Hilchos Nadarim, Hilchos Nazir, and Hilchos Arachim Becharom, all of the halachas that are connected to utterances. Let's go. Hilchos Shavuos, Yesh B'Chalon Chamesh Mitzvahs. Achas, Mitzvahs Hasei, V'Arba Mitzvahs Loisaseh V'Zel Praton, Aleph Shaloi Lishava B'Shmoi Lasheket, Bei Shaloi Yisa Eshmoi Lashav, Gimel Shaloi Lichbar B'Pikadon, Dalid Shaloi Lishava Al Tfiras Mamain, and Hey is Lishava Bishmoi Be'emes. And as we spoke out when we read that Amach Mitzvahs Hasei, that the Ravid, as he does in many other places, strongly disagrees with the Rambam by saying there is no such positive commandment to swear a Mitzvahs Hasei, to take an oath. The mitzvah is that not to swear in God's name in vain. But the Rambam holds that when, in the few times there is an obligation to swear, there's a mitzvah to swear in God's name when you're swearing the truth. Hilchos nadarim yesh b'chalon shalosh mitzvahs. Shtei mitzvahs hasei v'achas mitzvahs loisaseh v'zo praten. Aleph, sheyishmon moitzi svasa v'yasar kamoy shenada. Beis, in the negative, shlo yachel devarim. Gimel, sheyufar haneder o yashvua, v'zeu din hafaras nadarim hamafayrish b'toyre shebechsav. There's an emphasis over here regarding Hafaras Nadarim, that's written, that's explicitly stated, because when the Mishnah in the end of Chagig in the first page, it gives an example of the mitzvahs that are Parchas Ba'avid, so we speak about Hataras Nadarim. The Rambam wants to make that emphasis. There's Hataras Nadarim, that's Parchas Ba'avid, and there's Hafaras Nadarim, that's written explicitly. Hilchas Naziros, Yesh B'chlol and Eser Mitzvah, Shtei Mitzvahs Hasei, Ushmayne Mitzvahs Loisaseh V'Zel Praten. Aleph, Sheyigadel HaNazir Pera. Bei, Shelo Yigalach So'ari Kol Yimen Yisrei. Gimel, Shelo Yishtah HaNazir Yain, V'lo Yitarevis Yain, V'afilu Choymet Shalohem. Even vinegar that comes from wine. Dalit shelo yochel anovim lach. Hey shelo yochel semukim are raisins. Givav shelo yochel chartzanim. Right? Dalit is ayin shelo yochel zagim. Ches shelo yikonis lo'ila meis. Tesh shelo yitamo la meisim. Like a coin, it's not an issur for him to become tummy. It's an issur for him to become tummy with corpse tumah specifically. Yud sheyigalach ala korbanos when kishayashlim mezurusay. Oy, if he becomes tummy, then also he has to take a haircut before he restarts counting. Hilchas arachim becharamim says Ramam yesh b'chalon shava mitzvahs chamish mitzvahs asay ushtei mitzvahs loisaseh v'zel praten. Aleph lodem be'erchei adam kasher mefayrish batoyram. It's also very explicit. V'zel din archei ha'adam. Beis din erchei behema. Erech behema, the Torah doesn't specify, because even if you use the word erech, you have to pay its value. There isn't a standard value. Every animal has to be evaluated. Gimel din erchei batim. Dalet din erchei sodos. Hey din machrim nechasav. One of the ways that you can give something to God or to Kohanim is by using the word chedem. Vav shelo yimacher chedem, because it's not yours to sell. And zayin shelo yigol chedem. It says that Rambam nimsu kol mitzvahs and achlolis b'sefer zeh. The sefer that we are calling Hafla'a is Esrim v'chamish, the 25 mitzvahs. Esrim mehem mitzvahs asay, v'chamish asay is mitzvahs lois asay, and this is the second Samol Chanavshi Echti Duri Markum. But going to the mark. You can see Tzamach's face. Sefer Zeroim. You think about it. Sefer Zeroim And again, just to point out that the Rabbeinu HaKadosh wrote Zroim as the first. And here we're writing it, God, over here in the seventh. Hilchos Sheva V'Zel Sidurim.
Are we going to
Hilchos
have
Kalayim.
a Nigunim after?
Nachamo?
Are we going to have a test on the Nigunim after?
Maybe we should have a test on the Iker. Hilchos Kalayim. Hilchos Matnas Aniyim. Hilchos Trumais. Hilchos Maisres. Hilchos Maisres Sheni Netar Avoy. Hilchos Bikurim. Ushar Matnas Kohuna Sheba Gvulim. And Hilchos Shmita v'Yovel. Hilchos Kalayim says Rambam Yesh B'Cholon Chamish Mitzvahs Leisa Sevas Opratim. It's all negative. Aleph Shaloi Lizroi Zroim Kalayim. Bei Shaloi Lizroi Tvua Oyerek Bakerem. Gimel Shaloi Laharbia Behema v'Kalayim. Dalot Shaloi Lasis Malacha v'Kili Behema Ka'achas. And Hey Shaloi Lilboish Kalayim. Amazing. Although it's a Basa B'Cholov is also a Kalayim, but the Rambam puts it over there. Hilchos Matnas Aniyim. Yesh B'Cholon Shalosh Esrei Mitzvahs. Sheva Mitzvahs Asay. V'Sheish Mitzvahs Leisasem. And V'Zeu Proten. Aleph Lahaniach Peah. Beis Shaloi Yechal HaPeah. Yemod Lahaniach Leket. Dalet in the negative. Shaloi Yilakit HaLeket. Hey La'azov Oila Lois Bakerim. Vav Shaloi Oila Lakerim. Zayin La'azov Peret HaKerim. Ches Shaloi Yilakit Peret HaKerim. Tes Laniach HaShikha. Yud Shaloi Yoshuv Lokachas HaShikha. Yud Aleph, the Shikha is the only mitzvah that you do by forgetting. It's amazing. It's a mitzvah that can only be done if you forget.
You actually have to forget.
Yeah. Normally, if you're forgetting is what we forget to do a mitzvah. This mitzvah is done is using forgetfulness for a mitzvah. Yud Aleph, lahaprish ma'aser la'aniyim. Yud beis litin tzedakah kimisa siyad. Yud gimel shelo ya'ametz es levava yala'anu. Hilchos trumos says Rambam yesh b'chlolon shmoyne esri shmoyne mitzvahs asay. Shmoyne mitzvahs asay. Shtei mitzvahs. 1 second. You have 8 mitzvahs. They have a mistake. Shmoyne mitzvahs. I have the word I say has to be taken out. Shtei mitzvahs asay. V'sheish mitzvahs leisaseh v'zeu pratim. Aleph lahafresh truma gedoyla. Beis lahafresh trumas ma'aser. Gimel shelo yagdim trumois u'ma'aser zelo zelo yafresh ala seder. Which just makes the question that I pointed out even bigger. Why does Rambam in the Koseres, when he goes through the Sfarim, why does he mention ma'aser before trumas? Dalet shelo yochel zar truma. Hey shelo yochel afilu toishev koyin o ischirei truma. Vav shelo yochel arol truma. Zayin shelo yochel. Very good. Shelo yochel koyin truma truma. Ches shelo yisochel chalol truma. V'loy min hamura min hakach. Hilchos ma'aser mitzvahs say achas v'lahafresh ma'aser isham b'chol shana v'shana b'shnei hazriya. In other words, not from the Shemitah year, not from the Yovel, from the years that we can plant, and the Yitnu Lalevim, all included in the separating and the giving is part of the same mitzvah. Hilchos ma'aser sheni v'neter avoy yesh b'cholon teisha mitzvahs sholosh mitzvahs asay and the sheish mitzvahs loisaseh v'zeu pratim. Aleph lahafresh ma'aser sheni beis shelo lohoitzi dama b'shar tzorchi ha'adam chutz ma'achila u'shesiya v'sicha. Gimel shelo achle batuma. Dalot shelo achle ma'aninus. Hey shelo lechol ma'aser sheni shel dagen chutz l'Yerushalayim. Vav shelo lechol ma'aser tirish chutz l'Yerushalayim. Zayin shelo lechol ma'aser yitzer chutz l'Yerushalayim. Oh, you have it's amazing. In other words, but all these maasers is the 5 grains, and according to the Rambam, olives and grapes. And when it comes to not eating them chutz m'Yerushalayim, there's a negative for each one specifically. Ches liyas neter avoy kulai kodesh and vidinoi like ma'aser sheni, right? Lehiachol Yerushalayim lebolav k'ma'aser sheni lechol davar and test lehisvadois vidoy ma'aser 2 times in the 7-year cycle. Hilchos bikorim emshar matnas kahuna shebig vulin. Says Rambam yesh b'cholon teisha mitzvahs shmoyne mitzvahs asay and ba'achas mitzvahs loisaseh v'zeu pratim. Aleph lahafresh bikorim ula loisam lamigdash. Beis shelo yochel hakoyin bikorim chutz l'Yerushalayim. Gimel likros aleim. Daled lahafresh chalal hakoyin. Hey losei zuraya ulachayim v'keval hakoyin. Vav litin loireshes hageiz. Zayin liftos b'char haben and not only to redeem it, but to give that money to the kohen. Chesh liftos peter chamoid v'losis b'dirin lakoyin and test if you don't do the first, then la'arif peter chamoid im loirotza liftoisoi. Hilchoi shmita v'yovel yesh b'chlon shtayim ve'esrim mitzvahs. 22 mitzvahs. Teisha mitzvahs asay u'sholosh esrim mitzvahs loisaseh v'zeu pratim. Aleph shetish boy so'aretz b'shviis mimelachta. Beis shelo yavod avodas so'aretz b'shana zu. Gimel shelo yavod avodas ho'ilan b'shana zu separate. Dalet shelo yitzer asofiyah k'derech hakoitzim. Hey shelo yitzer hanezirim k'derech haboitzim. As everything will be explained. Vav sheyashmid mashatreitzi ha'aretz. Zayin sheyashmid kol hal va'oisav. Ches shelo yigois v'lo yisbah ha'loiver. Tesh shelo yimanim el halbos koydem hashmita. Because you are afraid that you're going to lose your money. Not to be afraid. Kadesh le'yav eloining. Yud lispoid hashanim sheva shanim. Yud Aleph Lakadish Shnas HaChamishim. This is on the base. Then not everything is on the individual. Yud Beis L'Tkoi B'Shefer Basidi L'Tishrei Kedei Latzei Sa'abadim Chavshiyim. Yud Gimel Shaloi La'avoid Adoma B'Shana Zu. Yud Aleph Shaloi Yikzer S'kicha Kederach HaKoitzim. Tezvav Shaloi Yiftzoi B'Nizirah Kederach HaBoitzim. Tezayin Litin Geula La'aretz B'Shana Zu. V'zeu Din Stei Achuza Stei Mikne. Yud Zayin Shaloi Timachar Haaretz Latzmisus. Yud Ches Din Bati Yarechayma. Yud Tesh Shaloi Yinchal Kol Shevet Levi Beretz Yisrael. But even though they didn't get a Zayirusha, they had a lot of real estate, but they didn't own it. Elonois Lahem Orim Matana Lo Shevas Bohem. Chaf Shaloi Yikach Shevet Levi Babiza. Chaf Aleph Litin LaLevim Orim Lo Shevas Umigdashayim. And Chaf Bei Shaloi Yimacher Midrashoreim Elo Bei Alam Lo Oilam Bei Lifnei Yovel. And even after the Yovel says that Rambam Nimtzu, all of the mitzvahs that are included in the Sefer that the Rambam calls Zeroyim are Shishim Basheva, 30 are mitzvahs asay, and 37 are mitzvahs loisa, sense mamish connected to Nigun Shamiel. Mamish. No, you're yearning to go back to God. That's why you separate yourself from the work of the land. Beautiful. Chevra, moving on, Sefer Avoida says that Rambam Molchais of Teisha was El Sidurim, Hilchais Beis Abchira. Right? Again, that's the consistency. The only exception is that Rambam before the Krisedes calls it the Beis Hamikdash. Just a noch detail that Beis Abchira, the Rebbe emphasizes, is that we have Midrashim. Why did God choose that place? So the question is, what's the cause and what's the effect? Chassidus explains Bechira means there is no reason why this place is more special than other places. So it begins that since that place was chosen by God for no reason, that's why special things happen later. And not since special things happened, that's why God chose that place. That's the say. The core is that God was boiched in the Beis Abchira, Hilchos Klei HaMikdash, V'oivnem Boi, Hilchos Bias HaMikdash, Hilchos Esurei HaMizbeach, Hilchos Maaseh HaKorbanos, Hilchos Telidim HaMusafim, Hilchos Psuli HaMikdashim, Hilchos Averos Yom Kippurim, and Hilchos Me'ilah. This is a very large sefer, so let's go through all the details. Hilchos Beis Abchira says, Rambam yesh b'cholon sheish mitzvah sholosh mitzvahs asay v'sholosh mitzvahs lois asay and v'zeu pratim aleph livnois migdosh beis shaloi livnois hamizbeach gozis gimel shaloi la'alois all of the malos dalad liyiram en hamigdosh hey lishmeras hamigdosh saviv and vav shaloi la'ashbis shmiras hamigdosh. Again, the Rambam holds unique Rambam that it's a mitzvah 24/7 because the Rambam holds that taka there were guards at night. But during the day, there weren't guards. But the avoida of the Kohanim and the Leviim, zeu kavoida, that's the way you guard it, by working. No, don't count it to be a mitzvah 24/7. Only at night. The Rambam holds it's a constant.
But it's 1 6 13.
Yes. Hilchas Klei HaMikdash v'oivnem boi. Let's begin. Yesh b'cholon arba asay mitzvahs, sheish mitzvahs asay u'shmoina mitzvahs lois asay v'zeu pratim. Aleph lasis shemen hamishcha. Wow. First one. Beish shaloi lasis kamayu. We never need it. We still have it. It's all there. Gimel shalei lasuch mimenu. When not allowed. Dalet shalei lasis kim maskoines haktoides. No, don't copy the exact formulation of it and making it. Hey shalei lahaktem amizbeach hazov chutz min haktoides. Vav shalei la. Sometimes we sprinkled blood, but the only offering that was burnt was only the ktoides. Vav lasis ha'arin ala kosei. If you have to move it, when you have to move it. Zayin that shalei yisuru abadim mimenu. Ches yavod halevi b'mikdash. Tesh lo yase echad b'malachas chaveri b'mikdash. Yud lekadesh hakoyin lavoida. Yud alef shiyokol hamishor shavos v'regalim. Even though we learned right that the morning and the afternoon tamidim, then the mishmar got to do their own unique karbanis. But the karbanis that are connected uniquely to Yom Tov were divided amongst all of them. Beis lil boish big dekoyin lavoida. Yud gimel shelo yikara hamiil. And Yud alef shelo yizach hachoyshin me'al ha'efoid. Hilchos bias hamikdash yesh b'cholon. Chamesh etzne mitzvahs, shtei mitzvahs asay, u'shlosh esne mitzvahs, lois asay v'zeu pratan aleph. Shlo yikonis shikar lamigdash, beis shlo yikonis boy paru aroish. Gimel Shalei Yikonis Bekurua Begadim. Dalet Shalei Yikonis Koyin B'chol Eis Alahechel. Can't stop going there. Hey, Shalei Yetzi Koyin Ben Hamikdash B'Shas Avodah. Valav L'Shalach Tmeim Min Hamikdash. Zayin Shalei Yikonis Tamei LaMikdash. Ches Shalei Yikonis Tamei LaHarabayis. Tesh Shalei Yishamish Tamei. Yud Shalei Yishamish Tavul Yoim. Yud Aleph L'Kadesh or Ovid Yodav Raglav. Yud Beis Shalei Yikonis Balmum L'Hechel V'Lamizbeach. Yud Gimel Shalei Yavoid Balmum. Yud Aleph Shalei Yavoid Balmum Oiver. And Tezvav Shalei Yavoid Anan Koyin Azot. Hilchos Yizun Mizbeach. Yesh B'Chlol and Arba Yatzei Mitzvahs. Got a 14 mitzvahs. 4 of them are positive and 10 of them are negative. As Prat and Al. Lahakriv Kol Hakorbanis Tamimim. Beis Shalei Lahagdish Balmum Lamizbeach. Gimel Shalei Yishchat. If there is a blemish. Dalet Shalei Yizrek Damai, if it's blemished. Hey Shalei Yakir Chelboi. Vav Shalei Yakir Balmum Oiver. Zayin Shalei Yakir Balmum. Afilu Bekarbanas Hagoyim. Ches Shalei Yatul Mum Bakochin. Right? That's the whole Afilu Bekarbanas Hagoyim. That's the beginning of the whole sugi of the Churban Abayis over there in Gittim. Right? Because they made a mum, and even though it came from the guy, you're not allowed to offer it. Coming back over Ches Shalei Yatul Mum Bakochin. Tes Livdois Psuli Amigdoshim Yud Lahakriv. B'yom Hashmini v'hala v'koydem zman zeh hu anikra mechuser zman ve'ein makriv v'noisa. Yud Aleph Shalei Lahakriv Esnan u'mechir. Yud Beis Shalei Lahakriv So'oir u'dvash ever. Yud Gimel on the positive l'mloyach kol hakorbanos. Yud Daled Shalei Lahash b'smelach mi'al hakorbanos. Hilchos ma'aser hakorbanos yesh b'chlolin esrim v'sholosh mitzvahs. 23 mitzvahs. Esem mitzvahs asay u'shloish esem mitzvahs shloish asay v'seo pratim. Aleph lasei so'oile kemaseh ksuvim ala sefer. Beis Shalei La'echol b'sar ha'oila. Gimel Seder Hachatos. Dalet Shalei La'echol Mebsar Hachatois Hapnimiyos. If the blood is sprinkled in there, it's always going to be burnt outside. Hey, Shalei Yavdol B'chatos Oif. Vav Seder Ha'asham Zayin Sheyechlu HaKoyanim B'sar Kochi HaKochim B'Mikdosh. Ches Shalei Yechlu M'chutz LaZara. Tesh Shalei Yechel Zar M'Kochi HaKochim. Yud Seder Hashlamim. Yud Aleph Shalei La'echol B'sar HaKochim Kalam. Koydem Zrikas Damim. Yud Beis Lasis Kol Mincha Keseder Masak Surim Atayra. Look at the emphasis not only of doing it, but doing it ala seided. Yud Gimel Shlo Yosim Shemen Al Minchas Choytei. Yud Aleph Shlo Literal Al Lavoino. Tezvav Shlo Say Ochel Minchas Koyen. It's always going to be burnt up entirely. Tezayin Shlo Say Ofa Minchas Chometz. Yud Zayin Shlo Yechlu HaKoyanim Shiyarei Amenachos. Yud Ches Yavi Kol Nedorav and Advice of the Regel Shapaga Bayorishay. Yud Tes Shlo Ya'achen Nidroi V'Nidvosoi Usha'ad Devarim Shechayav Behem. The Rambam doesn't write over here which regel. Even though he does by the positive, Chav Shula Hakriv Kol HaKorbanos B'Beis HaBchira, Chav Aleph Lahavi Kochi Chutza La'aretz to the Beis HaBchira to bring the physical animal if it was consecrated outside of Israel. Chav Beis Shaloi Lishchoi Korbanis Chutz LaZara, Chav Gimel Shaloi Lahakriv Korban Chutz LaZara, Hilchos Tinim U'Musafim. Yesh B'Chlalim Tshasrei Mitzvah Shmoinei Esrei Mitzvah Sasei, and one negative commandment is El Pratan. Aleph Lahakriv Shnei Kivasim B'Chol Yoim. Beis Lahadlik Eish Al Mizbeach B'Chol Yoim. Shitas Rambam unique is that they lit the menorah twice every day, really, in the morning and at night, so it burnt the whole time. Yud Gimel Shaloi Lachaboisa. Dalet Lohadem Esadeshem B'Chol Yom. Trumas Adeshem. Hey, Lahakter Ketoris B'Chol Yom. Vav Lahadlik Neris B'Chol Yom. Zayin Shiyakrev Kangad Mincha B'Chol Yom, and that's called Chavitim. Ches Lohoisev Shnei Kavasam Oilos B'Shabbos. Tes Lasis Lechem Aponim. Yud Musav Rosh Chodesh. Yud Aleph Musav HaPesach. Yud Beis Lahakrev Oymen Atnufa. Yud Gimel Lisper Kol Isha Shiva Shavuos Miyam HaKravas Oymen. Yud Daled Musav Atzeres. Tezvav Lahavi Shnei HaLechem Im HaKorbanos Haboy Mechal HaLechem Miyam Atzeres. Tezayin Musav Rosh Hashanah. Yud Zayin Musav Yoim Tzoim. Yud Ches Musav Hechog. And Yutes Musav Shmini Atzeres counted separately. Hilchos Psuli HaMikdoshim Yesh B'Cholam Shmoinei Mitzvahs. Shtei Mitzvahs Asei V'Sheish Mitzvahs Leisa Sevazo Pratam Aleph. Shaloi Lechol Kachim Shenipslu V'Shotel Behemum. Beis Shaloi Lechol Pigel. Gimel Shaloi Yoisir Kachim Achar Zmanam. Dalet Shaloi Yoichel Noiset. Hey Shaloi Yoichel Bakachim Shenitmu. Vav Shaloi Yoichel Adam Shenitmu HaKachim. Zayin Lisrei Es HaNoiser and Ches Lisrei Es HaTomei. Hilchos Avodas Yom HaKippurim. Says the Rambam that mitzvahs asay achas v'hi sheyase ma'ase Yom HaKippurim kuloi al haseder k'mo shekosim b'parshas Achri Mois hakarbonos v'haviduyim v'shiluach hasoim. He specifies these for some reason. It's all one mitzvah. Usha'ar ha'avodah hilchos me'ila yesh b'chalon sholosh mitzvahs achas mitzvahs asay u'shtei mitzvahs lois asay v'zol protam Aleph l'shalem hamoyel asher chata b'toisefes chomish, and the carbon, and that's the din of the moyel. Bei shaloi la avoid bakachim. No, don't be moyel. And Gimel specifically shaloi logois kachim, says the Rambam nimtzu kol mitzvahs anachlolis. In this sefer that the Rambam calls avoida is meya v'shalosh. Everything is numbered. Arboim v'sheva mehem mitzvahs asay, and v'chamishim v'sheis are mitzvahs loisase, and Hamana do'ani is mamish the concept of avoida. 1.5. Imagine on one. Svika's looking. Yeah. It fits. All right, moving on. Sefer Karbonei says Rambam Milchos of Sheish Guzel Sidonim Hilchos Karban HaPesach Hilchos Chagiga Hilchos B'Choros Hilchos Shgagos Hilchos Mechus Kippurim and Hilchos Temura. Hilchos Karban Pesach says Rambam Yesh B'Cholon Sheish Esrim Mitzvos Arba Mitzvos Aseu Shtei Masei Mitzvos Lois Sevu Zau Pratim Al Tzvishchait Es HaPesach Bizmani Bei Shaloi Lisboyach Oisoi Al HaChometz Oni Chometz Gimel Shaloi Lolin Ein Murav Dalal Lishchait Pesach Sheni Hey, lechol b'sara Pesach al matzu morer b'leil chamisha aser. Vav lechol b'sara Pesach sheni b'leil chamisha aser lachodesh hasheni. Zayin shelo yoichal no or umevushel. Ches shelo yoitzi b'sara Pesach chutz lachabura. Tes shelo yoichal memenu mumar. Yud shelo yoichal memenu toishav oisachid. Yud alav shelo yoichal memenu arel. Yud beis shelo yish boy etzem. That will be a toughy. Yud gimel shelo, you have to know how to make it. Shelo yish boy etzem b'Pesach sheni. Yud alav shelo yashim memenu laboiket. Tezvav shelo yashin mi Pesach sheni laboiket. Tezayin shelo yashin mi b'sar chagigas arba asar ad yoim shlishi. Hilchos chagigam yesh b'cholon sheish mitzvahs arba mitzvahs asay. It's amazing how the Rambam puts the chagigas arba asar together with Pesach. Remember that sugya? That was the whole machlokes. Danny, does it follow the same rules? Puts it together in that group, and not with it's really just a shlamim. He doesn't put it with a shlamim. Hilchos chagiga yesh b'cholon sheish mitzvahs arba mitzvahs asay u'shtei mitzvahs lois sevu zeu pratim. Aleph leheirois es pnei Hashem. Beish lochoig b'sholosh regalim. Gimel l'smayach b'regalim. Dalet shelo yira rekam. Hey shelo lazoiv levi milasamchoy v'lit loy matanoisav b'regalim. Vav lahakil es ha'am b'chag asukos when the matzoi shmita. Hilchos b'chayros yesh b'cholon chamish mitzvahs. 2 are positive, 3 are negative. V'zeu pratim. Aleph lahafresh b'chayros. Beish shelo ye'achel b'char tamim chutz liYerushalayim. Gimel shelo yipada ha'b'char. Dalet lahafresh ma'aseh behema. Hey, shelo yigoel ma'aseh behema. And the Rambam writes the chalalti ma'aseh behema im ha'b'char, explaining lefi shemasa shneim echad v'hakos of kol loy imay shneimar es damam tizroik in the plural. And what is their bloods referring to? That's the dam ma'aseh and the dam b'char. Hilchos shgagos yesh b'cholon chamish mitzvahs asay v'zeu pratim. Aleph sheyakev yochid ha'choyte Karban chatas hakvu al shgagosim. Beish Yaakov Asham Mishaloi Noidaloi Im Chata Oiloi Chata Achi Yavadaloi. And if he knows, even though he already brought an Asham, he still has to bring later a Chatosai, and that's called an Asham Talui. Gimel Sheyakrev Achoita Asham Alavedas Yuduais, and that's called an Asham Badai. Dalat Sheyakrev Achoita Karban Alavedas Yuduais Im Hoya Asher Behema Ve'im Hoya Ani Oif. And if he's even, God forbid, more impoverished, Asira Soefa. The Zeo Nikro Karban Oila V'Yoret. Hey, Sheyakrivu Hasanhedrin Karban Imto V'Hoirish Like Halacha, with a lot more details. V'Achas Min Hachamurais. Hilchos Mechusrei Kapara says Rambam Yesh B'Cholon Arba Mitzvahs Asay V'Zeo Pratim. Aleph Shetakrif Hazova Kishetitar Karban. Bei Shetakrif HaYuledes Kishetitar Karban. Gimel Sheyakrif Hazov Karban Kisheyitar. Dalet Sheyakrif HaMitzoyra Karban Kisheyitar. And ba'achar sheyakrivu karban isayim, only then, that's why they called mechusri kapara, is nigmarot harasan. Hilchos temurav yesh b'cholon sholish mitzvahs achas is a mitzvahs astei u'shtei mitzvahs loises evazo pratan. Aleph shelo yomer behema b'behema. Number 2, if you did it, it's effective. Shetei ta'temura kodesh im hemer. And Gimel Shlo Yishana HaKochim Mikedusha Likedusha. Says Rambam in conclusion of the Sefer of Karbonis, Tinsu Kol HaMitzvahs and Achol Sefer Zeh Shloishim V'Teisha Esrim Mitzvahs Asei Chasrei HaMitzvahs Oisaseh. And this we are connecting to the Nigun of Ato Bechartanu. Obviously. Geschmack. It's good to sing in morning. Huh? No. Korbanos. Can have fun or okay or avoid the self. It's korbanos. Clear. It's clear. And moving on to Sefer Tahara, says Rambam Melchos of Shmoyne was El Sidur and Hilchos Tumas Meis. Ooh, this is going to be so geschmack, Danny. All these halachas, you'll love it. Hilchos Paraduma, Hilchos Tumas Saras, Hilchos Tamei, Metame Mishkav Moshev, Hilchos Sha'ar Ovis Atumais, Hilchos Tumas Acholim, Hilchos Kalim, and Hilchos Mikvois. The beauty is that we don't have Gemaras on this. Now we have it. We're going to have all of the details what we learned. Rambam inside Hilchos Tumas Meis, Mitzvasa say Achas V'hi Din Tumas Meis. Simple. Hilchos Paraduma, Yesh B'Chlal Shtei Mitzvahs Asei. V'Zel Praten, Din Paraduma, and Din Tumas Mei Nida V'Toharasam. Hilchos Tumas Tzoras, Yesh B'Chlal Shmoyne Mitzvahs Sheish Mitzvahs Asei Shtei Mitzvahs Lois Asei V'Zel Praten. Aleph Lohoiros B'Tzoras Adam Kadin HaKosav V'Toiro. Beis Shelo Yokoit Simonit Atuma. Gimel Shelo Yigalach HaNesek. Dalet Sheyeh Mitzvayim Mefursam. Through his Kriyas Begodav and through Priyas Roishay, and by him wearing that covering up until his lips, V'atiyah al Safa. Interesting that Rambam doesn't write that he should be Mefursam because V'tami Tama Yikra. He has to publicize it by saying that the Rambam doesn't write it here. Hey, Taharas Tzoras, Vav Sheyigalach HaMitzoides Kol So'arik Yishayitan, Zayin Din Tzoras HaBeged, and Ches Din Tzoras HaBayis. Hilchos Metame Mishkov Moshev, says Rambam, Yesh B'Chlal Arba Mitzvahs Asei V'Zel Praten. Din Tumas Nida, Beis Din Tumas Yiledes, Gimel Din Tumas Zova, and Dalet Din Tumas Zov. Hilchos Sha'or Ovis HaTumais, Yesh B'Chlal Sholish Mitzvahs Asei V'Zel Praten. Aleph Din Tumas Nevela, Beis Din Tumas Sheretz, Gimel Din Tumas Shichma Zera, and says Rambam Ba'akum Metamo Kisheretz V'Tuma Medivrei Sofer. Why does it have to be written here? Hilchos Tumas Kalim, Hilchos Tumas Acholim, Mitzvahs Asei Achas, V'hi Din Tumas Mashkim, V'Acholim, and V'Hechsherim. Hilchos Kalim. Inyan Elu Halachis Leda. What type of Kalim Shemekablim Tuma? They call Elu HaTumais, and the Kalim She'enam Mistamim. And the Ketzad Mistamim HaKalim Umetamon. Says Rambam, Hilchos Mikvois, Mitzvahs Asei Achas, V'hi Sheyitboil Kol Tomei, they may mikvah and va'acharkach yitoim. Says Rambam that nimsu kol mitzvahs and acholos v'sefer zeh, in the sefer that the Rambam calls Tahara, are 20. Shmoyne esrei mitzvahs asei ushtei mitzvahs loisaseh, and this obviously is connected to the nigun of anim zemirois. I'm thinking. So am I. I never taught all these songs. Some of them are not original, but he taught it to us. Beautiful. And moving on to Sefer Nezikin, says Rambam Melchos of Chamesh v'Zel Sidurim. Hilchos Niskei Mamen, Hilchos Geneva, Hilchos Gezela V'Avela, Hilchos Choyvel Amazik, Hilchos Ritzeach U'Shmiras Nefesh. And now let's break them down. Hilchos Niskei Mamen, Yesh B'Chlal Arba Mitzvahs Asei v'Zel Praten. Din HaShoyr, Beis, Din HaHever, Din HaBoid, and the Din HaVora. Hilchos Geneva, Yesh B'Chlal Shana Mitzvah, Shtei Mitzvahs Asei v'Chamesh Mitzvahs Leisaseh v'Zel Praten. Aleph Shlelim B'F Mamen. Beis Din Haganaf. Gimel L'Tzadik HaMoiznaim Im HaMashkolos. Before you use them, just to make sure that they are authentic, that they represent the right way. Calibrate them. Thank you. Not to use them if they're not calibrated. Hey, shelo yeh biyad adam even ve'even eifel ve'eifel. Afal pisha eno lekech v'noisen behem. To break them. Vav shelo yasi gavul and Zayin shelo yignoiv nefashos. Hilchos gezeh levaveda yesh b'chol and sheva mitzvahs. 2 are positive and 5 are negative, and these are their details. Al shaloi ligzoil, Bei shaloi lashoik, hold back salary. Gimel shaloi lachamoid, mamush chayvis halavavis. Dalet shaloi lehisavois. What's the difference? Hey lahashiv es hagzela. Vav shaloi yisala minhu aveda, and Zayin lahashiv hu aveda. Hilchos chayvel mazik mitzvasa say achas v'hidin chayvel v'chaveda oy mazik mamoinoi. And weiter, Hilchos Ritzechos Midas Nefesh, Yesh B'Cholon Sheva Esrei Mitzvah 17 mitzvahs. 7 of them are positive, 10 of them are negative. Zel Pratan Aleph Shaloi Litzayach, Bei Shaloi Likach Koifel and Nefesh Ritzayach. Ella, he has to be put to death. Gimel Lahagloy Ritzayach if he killed manslaughter. Bishgaga. Dalet Shaloi Likach Koifel lemechuyev golos. Hey Shaloi Yumas Ritzayach Keshiyitzach Koidem Amad Badin. Vav Lahatzil Hanirdov, even if needed, Benafshe Shal Roidev. Zayin shaloi lochos ala roid, ches shaloi lamid ala dom, tesh la hafrish oli mikrot ulach la derech, vav la arif esu agla banachal, yud alef shaloi ye ovid bo isa karka v'lo yizoreya, yud beish shaloi losim domim, gimel laso ismako, yud alef shaloi yachshil tomim bedover, might the lifnei iver, tezvav lifroik imisha nichshal baderech, tezayin litoy imoy, and yud zayin Shaloi yanichenu baderech nivol b'masoi and v'yelech loy. Says Rambam nimtzu that kol ha-mitzvahs hanacholos b'sefer zeh of Nezikin are 36, 16 are positive, and 20 are negative, and that's the cheshbon tzedek that we have to make connected to Nezikin. Stav yapitu fits. With the violin, give a cook. Someone 1.25. We need a little slow. It has to be slow. This. Gan Eden. Sefer Kinyan says Rambam Melchos of Chamesh v'Zel Sidurim. Hilchos Mechira, Hilchos Zechiru Matana, Hilchos Shchenim, Hilchos Shluchim V'Shutzim, and Hilchos Avodim. Hilchos Mechira yesh b'Cholon Chamesh mitzvahs, Achas mitzvahs asay, Ba'arba mitzvahs, Lois asay v'Zel Pratim. Aleph din Mekach u'Memkar, Bei shelo yoyna b'Mikach u'Memkar, Gimel shelo yoyna b'Dvarim, Dalet shelo yoyna ger tzadik b'Mamoinoi, and Hey shelo yoyneyu even b'Dvarim. Hilchos Matana Inyan Elu Halachis Leida Din Zoichem in a Hefker Heechikne or Bameyikne. The Din Noisen Matana Umakabel Matana. The Ezi Matana Chizeres and the Ezi that does not have to be returned. Hilchos Inyan Elu Halachis Leida Din Chiluk HaKarkois Ben Ashutvim. That's mamish the Seder of Shas here at the beginning of Bava Basra. V'harchakas Nezek Kol Echad Mehem Mishcheinoi. Umibal hameitzer shaloi and the din of a bal hameitzer. Hilchos shutvim shluchim ushutvim. Inyan elu halachis leida den shluchim shel adam ushutvay umishpateyam b'mikacham uminimkaram ubehefsedam and usecharam. Hilchos avodim. Yes, thank you. Yes, b'cholon shalosh mitzvahs, shalosh esri mitzvahs, chamesh mitzvahs asay u'shmona mitzvahs leisa seva zeh pratim. Aleph din kinyan eved ivri beis shaloi yemacher mimkeres eved gimel shaloi yabidu beferach. Dalet shaloi naniach kertoishev livdos by beferach. Hey shaloi navoy boy avodas eved. Vav to give him a gift. Fahanik loibet says chavshi. Zayin shaloi yetzirei Ches livdos omavriya. Test for the master or his son liya adam. Yud she may never be sold shaloi simacher. Yud Aleph lavoy be'evet knani le'olam elam hipol le'adoinov echad miroshe eibarav. Yud Bei Shaloi lahasgir evet shabarach mechutz la'aretz la'aretz Yisrael, and Yud Gimel Shaloi lahoinois evet zeh hanitzel eleinu. Says Rambam nimtzu that kol ha-mitzvahs that are nechlolois in this sefer that the Rambam calls kinyan are 18. Sheish mehem mitzvahs asay ushtem es mitzvahs loisasem So we have over here just to say the following, that in the final year that Rebbe taught the Nigunim, the final year that Rebbe taught, when he said he's not going to be teaching it anymore, he taught 2 Nigunim. So we're going to go here with the Nigun of Kiyano Amecha, because also we are God's acquisition from the Lashonos over there, Kinyan. So let's go to Kiyano Amecha. Huh? No, the Rebbe taught two Kiyano Amechas. The second Kiyano Amecha. Huh? Yeah, Hashem acquired us. Sure. And moving on now, Chevra, to the second to last Sefer Mishpatim, Hilchos of Chamesh, V'zel Sidunan, Hilchos Schirus, Hilchos She'elu Pikadon, Hilchos Malva Loy, Hilchos Toim V'nitan, and Hilchos Nachalois, Hilchos Schiros. Yesh B'chlal Sheva Mitzvahs, Sholish Mitzvahs Asei, V'arba Mitzvahs Leis Asei, V'zel Pratan Aleph, Din Sacher V'Shomer Sacher, Beis Liten Schar Sacher B'Yoymoi. In the negative, Gimel Shelo Ya'achar Schar Sacher Achar Zmanoi. Dalet sheyoichal asacher min hamechuber she'asaboy in certain circumstances. Hey, shelo yoived asacher min hamechuber b'shas gemar malacha. Shelo yoichal. Vav shelo yoilech asacher b'yoda yoismim ha'sha'achal. And zayin shelo yachsoim shoyer b'dishoy. It's mamish similar. People can eat, and the animal should be able to eat while they're working. Hilchos she'elo pikadon yesh b'chlal shtei mitzvahs asei v'shoyna din ha'sheyalim shniya din shoymer chinam. Hilchos malva loive yesh b'chlalim shtei esrei mitzvahs, right? 4 are positive and 8 are negative as el pratim. Aleph lahalvois laani v'mach. Gimel shelo yigois oisoi. Gimel shel ligois es hanachri. Dalet shelo yimashkein balchoy b'zroya. Hey, lahachzer amashkein leba'olav in the time that he needs it. Vav shelo ya'achan amashkein leba'olav ha'ani be'eshu tzarach loy. Zayin shelo yachbel almana. Right, doesn't look correct. You're going to her house and you're taking her things. Ches shelo yachbel kelim she'oisem ha'moichel nefesh. Tesh shelo yiten hamalva beribis. Yud shelo yilva haloiva beribis. Separate. Right, one on the malva, one on the loiva. Yud aleph shelo yisasik adam be malva v'loiva beribis. V'lo yoy beneim v'lo yara v'lo yichtav shtar. And Yud beis lil bois min anachri ulahalva sloi mitzvah beribis. Hilchos toim v'nitin mitzvah sasei achas v'hi din toyin umoida oikaifen. Says Rambam, Hilchos Nachlos mitzvah say achas he didn't say the Nachlos. And now says Rambam, kum to chois, right? Nimsu kol ha-mitzvahs ha-nachlos b'sefer zeh, which the Rambam calls mishpatim, are esrim v'sholosh, achas asei, achas esrei mehem mitzvah asei, shtei mesrei are mitzvah loisus, and this is connected to the nigun of Hu Elokeinu. And now moving on to the final Sefer, says the Rambam, Sefer Shoiftim, Hilchos of Chamesh, V'zel Siduran, Hilchos Sanhedrin, V'ha'onshin HaMasurim Lehem, Hilchos Eidus, Hilchos Mamrim, Hilchos Abel, and the final series, Hilchos Malachem Milcham Moisehem. Says, let's go into details. Hilchos Sanhedrin, V'ha'anoshim HaMasurim Lehem, says the Rambam, Yesh B'chlalan Shloishim Mitzvahs, 30. Eser mitzvahs asay, the Eser mitzvahs loisasev v'zel pratan aleph lemane shoiftim beishloi lemane is daim she'enu yedei derech hamishpat gimel lintois achri rabim im nechelku ha'shoiftim dalet shloi laharigim rabu ha'machayvim be'ish echad. Right, you have to have a majority of at least 2. Achi yo yeser shnaim hey shloi yilamet choyva mishlimet zchus b'dirin ha'fashes vav laharig b'skila zayin laharig b'sreifa ches laharig b'sayif ches laharig b'chenek yud litlois yud aleph. At least over here, Chevra, the Seder is of what's from Chamor to Kal, right? Skilas Reifa, Hereg and Chenek. We just pointed out that in the Koiseres before, the Rambam went into a whole different Seder. Yud Litlois, in the times that you have to hang. Yud Aleph, Ligboid Hanerek B'yoim Harigasai. Yud Bei Shaloi Solin Evlasai. Yud Aleph Shaloi Lahachis Mechashik. Yudalad lahalkois lo rasha. Tezvav shelo Yosef akah haloika. Tezvav shelo Yareg Naki ba'amdan das. Yud Zayin shelo la'anoish anus. Yud Ches shelo lachus al hoidek chaveru yechayvavay. Yud Tes shelo larachem al adal badin. Ches shelo lahaded godel badin. Chaf Aleph shelo lahatis adin al bale averos afal pishu chaytei. Chav Bei shelo la'aves mishpat. Chav Gimel shelo lahatis mishpat ged v'yosem. Chav Dalad lishpoit b'tzedek. Chav Bei shelo lira bedin. This is on the judge. Chav Zvav shelo likach shoichat. Chav Zayin shelo yisa shem ashav. Chav Ches shelo yekalol hadayon or hadayonim. Chav Tes shelo yekalol hanasi. Lamed shelo yekalol odam mishar b'nei Yisrael. Ha kishedim hilchais edus yesh b'chlol shmoine mitzvahs. Sholish mitzvahs asay v'chamish mitzvahs loish asay v'zo praton. Aleph lohoy b'beis din l'mishirei lo edus. Beis lidresh v'lach v'ra edus. Gimel shelo yoyre ha'ed b'din zeh sheheid all b'din nefashis. Dalet shelo yakum davar be'edus echad. Davar, imagine. Hey shelo yoid ba'al aveda. Vav shelo yoid karet. Zayin shelo yoid b'sheket. Ches shelo lasos le'ed zoymim kasher zomam. Hilchais mamrim yesh b'chlolon teisha mitzvah sholosh mitzvahs asay v'sheish mitzvahs le'sh asay v'zel pratan aleph. Lasos al piyat treida sheyemnu beis and agodl. Beis shelo losin midivrei. Gimel shelo elohisev al treida lebe mitzvah shebachsav lebe ferushan shalom danon v'yashmua. Dalet shelo legroim mikol mitzvahs. Hey shelo lekal avaim. Because Mamrim is rebelling against the institutions that God established. So Sanhedrin, parents, is also an institution of authority. Zayin lechabed avaim, ches leyira avaim, tesh lo yihabein soiru rumeira al koil ave ve'imoy. Hilchos able yesh b'chlolan arba mitzvahs. Achas mitzvahs asay v'shmitzvahs leishel sevus o pratim. Aleph lis abel ala kreven. And included in that, afilu koina mistami u misablu ala kreven. And the Rambam holds it's a positive commandment only if the Yom Kavura is on the Yom Hamisa, but according to the Rambam, it's a mitzvah say. The ein adam is abel al rugi bezdin, ulefikach kolalti halachis elo b'sefer zeh shein me'ein kavura b'Yom Hamisa she mitzvah say be connected to Sanhedrin. You know, the Rambam has to explain here, and he writes it again later, right? But we're going to be learning it. Why? How does Abel fit in the Shulchan Aruch? The Abel has nothing to do with the laws here of rebelling or Sanhedrin. It's a whole different sefer. Beis shleitama koyin gadol akrovim gimel shleikones im ameis ba'oil dalet shleitama koyin headed b'nefesh adam elo akrovim uvad. And the final series hilchos malachim and muhammad seyam yesh b'chlolan esnim b'shalosh mitzvahs esem mitzvahs asay shlosh asay mitzvahs shlosh asay v'zeu pratim aleph lemanois melech b'Yisrael beis shelo yimuna mikahal gedim. Gimel shelo yarbole nashim, dalet shelo yarbole susam, hey shelo yarbole kesav azov, vav lahachrim shiva amamin. That's already what the king is beginning to do. And zayin shelo lahachris mehem neshama, ches limchay zari shel amalek, tes liskor masha asolano amalek. Yud in the negative shelo lishkoich ma'asav aroim ari vasoi, his ambush that he did baderech when he left Mitzrayim. Yud aleph shelo lishkan beretz Mitzrayim. Yud beis lishloach shaloim leyoshvei ha'ir kishet tzadam aleho. And the Lodin Bakashin Mefarish Batoida in Tashlim the Imlay Sashlim, Rambam holds that that's true even for the Shiva Samamim, even for Amalek. Yud Gimel Shaloi Lidresh Shaloi Ma'amin Amoy Bulvad Kishat Tzadam Aleim. Yud Dalet Shaloi Lahashkes Iloni Michael Bamotza. Tezvav Lahaskin Yod Sheyetzu Boy Bali Hamachne Lipon is boy to establish a latrine. Yud Tezayin Lahaskin Yod Lachbar boy Yud Zayin Limshoyach Koyin Ladabra Bosnayan Shiatzova B'Shas HaMulchama Yud Ches Liois Ma'ades Uboina Binyan, and the third V'Nateya Kerem, they should be allowed. And even if they didn't begin to inaugurate, but then if they go out, they're told you test that's you test if they already got married, if they already settled into their house. There's no fleeing during battle. And Yuchav Gimel Shaloy Yichbeshen Al Abdus Achashin of Allah. Says the Rambam Nimtzur comes out called a mitzvahs and achlolos in this final sefer that he calls Shoftim are Shivim Ba'arba mitzvahs, 74 mitzvahs, 27 positive and 47 negatives. I don't have the nigun here on a record, so I'll have to sing it myself. But just to know that the Rebbe in Kafshin Lamed Dalet, that's many years after the Rebbe finished teaching Nigunim, taught the final nigun, which is what we know, the Haderes Ve'emunah, to the Napoleon's March, which is connected to Mashiach, because that's the ultimate idea of his hapcha, obviously.
Rambam.
We're not done yet. Wait. All right, now one second. So let's read inside. There's a lot to speak out over here. Says that Rambam v'nimtzu kol halacha shel arba asas svarim elu are, again, we're not speaking about the halachas katanis, we're speaking about the halachas gedolos, right? Svarim, halachas, prakim, halachas katanis. So the total amount of the big halachas are 83 halachas. And the Rebbe writes that the Gemara says in Bava Kama regarding number 83 that it's bigamatria machala. And the Rebbe Mamash makes the connection that just like the Gemara says there in Bava Kama, that there are 83 machalas. All of the illnesses comes from the avos hamachlis, which are 83. And eating pas shachris bamelach and drinking a kitan shalmayim every day, the Gemara says, brings a refuah to all of the machalas. The ruchnias Torah is our bread and water. So learning these farim will bring as a skula a remedy to all of the machalas. And now the Ata says that Rebbe says that Rambam aschel levoin mishpatei kol mitzvah v'chol adinim hanechlolim ima minyana ala seder halacha is be'ezras shin daled yud, to speak out one of the many talks that Rebbe gave, asking that what you noticed is that even though the Rambam included some rabbinic mitzvahs in his count, but the Rambam never numbered the rabbinic mitzvahs. And you get used to the Rambam is numbering everything. So the question is, why didn't the Rambam ever give a number to the rabbinic mitzvahs? So some people approach that there are thousands of rabbinics. So the Rebbe, so what? So go find how many they are and number them. Ubefrat that we know that there are the big Sheva mitzvahs that Rabbana. The Rambam doesn't even number those. Numbers are only given to biblical mitzvahs. And the Nakuda that Rebbe gives is that that's the difference between biblical and rabbinic. That since the Torah, the mitzvahs of God, we may never add nor subtract. So their number is fixed. It's 613. And even though we call them the Shava mitzvahs that Rabbanan, is because we have a Messiah that we're not going to add to them, but potentially we could. Not only could we theoretically add more rabbinic mitzvahs, but we also have the ability, as we are going to learn details, that even if something was enacted by a Sanhedrin, if you gather a Sanhedrin that is greater, you can undo other rabbinic gzeres. So that's the difference, that rabbinic mitzvahs are going to be, we're going to list them, but we're not going to number them. Masha'enkin mitzvahs d'oraisa, everything is coming with a number meduik. The Rebbe also added just one more thing, that another Rashi Tevis, another gematria is Chavul Hashem Kavod Va'ois. The way it's written there is Ois is written without the Vav. Va'ois. Vav Ayin Zayin is also the gematria 83. So not only is learning the whole Sefer Yad, the skula, to get healing from all the illnesses, but the ultimate koyach and ois that you have comes through the learning of Torah. That was a fantastic intro. And God willing, starting tomorrow with the first 3 prakim, shkoyach, that was great. Because I didn't know. Okay, I'm learning how to go quick. We could have slept in another 15 minutes.
Or you could explain more on the Wittikot.
No, I think it's better. The shorter, the better. It's an hour. It was an hour, 15 minutes.
We have time to go through the rest of Nechayach now.
The rest of the Chayach now. For that, we don't have enough time in the world. 2.0.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Rabbi, I didn't understand, what is 83 halachot? What does that mean?
Okay, so Nachmo, so Yaakov, the Rambam, people are familiar with the 14 books. Good. In every book, there are a series of halachas, and not to confuse it with what we call halacha. Just like this, there's Svarim. Let's go down from the big to the little. Then every sefer has in it a series of halachas. In every halacha, there are many chapters, and in every chapter, there are halachas katanas.
So how he's using halacha like an order of division.
So the halachas are the big halachas that we learned about. The Rambam didn't even go through the chapters, certainly not into the halachas katanas. But the Rambam was the one that made every halachas into chapters, and the Rambam wrote in the intro that he made the halachas katanas. The Rambam wrote that. I'm saying that because some people erroneously think that the little halachas were not made by the Rambam. It's not true. It's not true. The Rambam wrote us, and they didn't read the intro. In the introduction, the Rambam writes that I'm organizing it in halachas, turakim, and halachas katanas.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right.